Hey everyone, how are you? I hope you're doing great and welcome to my YouTube channel. For those who are new here, my name is Winnie. I am a process engineer working in the semiconductor manufacturing industry. I am a PhD graduate in material science and engineering, and I am a mom, a wife, so a lot of things going on in my life. So in this channel, I mostly share about my experience like as an international PhD, and I like to share like tips for a successful application, and I also provide consultation and support for one-on-one for to help you with the application process, especially for those who are interested in studying abroad for their graduate school. I have a website which is called the globalstudentaid.com. It's attached in the description box, so feel free to reach out to me if this is an area that you're interested in. I also share about my my work life, what my day-to-day work is like. That is, I haven't shared much, but it's something that I will be sharing more in this channel. And finally, just everything in between, just balancing it out as a mom, as a wife. It's a lot, but I like it and I enjoy it. So without further, let's get into today's video. So as you can see from the topic, today's video, I'm actually giving a story of how did I transition from my PhD to a process engineer, and in fact in semiconductor manufacturing. Is that something that I did in my graduate school or in my undergrad? But actually the answer is no. So for those who don't know me, actually I did my undergrad in civil engineering. Yeah. So different from exactly what I'm doing now. And then for my PhD, I got an opportunity to do my PhD in material science and engineering. And even when I got this opportunity while I was in Kenya to move to the US to do my PhD, my initial thought was that whatever I was going to do, like the material science that I was going to do, was going to be civil engineering related. But actually, that wasn't the case. So what I ended up doing, my research focus was mainly in magnetism and magnetic materials. So here is where the physics back in high school played a role. So you see, like anything that you do today, you never know like what role it's going to play in your future life or in your future career. And that's why it's very important for you to take anything that you do seriously and to do it with so much diligence and just pay a lot of attention to it, because you just never know. And that's exactly my story. So it's just, life is never like so straightforward. You think that, oh, like whatever you're going to study for, that is exactly what you're going to apply. No, in some cases that's not the case, and that's why being open-minded is very important. So that's what happened in my case. I wanted to do civil engineering materials for my PhD, but really there was no opportunity for that. And I'm going to talk that in another video, like what are some of the challenges that you can experience as an international graduate student. So to cut the story short, I did my PhD in magnetism materials, and mostly my focus was in smart magnetic materials. So these are like soft smart magnetic materials where you make a composite of polymers, and then you mix them with magnetic materials and use that to tune depending on the functionality that you need for that material. And I think that is really what played a key role now for me to be able to work in semiconductors, because semiconductors, we would consider them like smart materials because they have tunable electrical properties. You can tune their electrical conductivity by doping them with different materials. So, and now working, being in semiconductors in industry, I think one of the, now that I look back at how was I able to transition to semiconductors, what played a role, and I remember during my interview, what was key was my research. How did I conduct my research? Like, what are the skills that I gained while pursuing my PhD? And so just looking at some of those skills, one of critical skills is like your critical thinking and your problem solving, because they will want to say like, what have you achieved with your research? It doesn't matter like what research you've done, but what really, how did you go about it? How like when given a problem, how did you solve it? So that was one of the key things that played a role in my transition, because now in semiconductors, that's what I do on day-to-day basis. I identify what are the problem statements. I work with engineers to identify like how best can we make that process, and then how can we improve the efficiency, what and solve that particular problem. So that is one thing that I do on my day-to-day basis. The other thing that you do in your PhD and applies to my career today is data analysis and experiments. So I didn't do much of experiments in my PhD, but I did simulation, which involved designing experiments using the computer, running the simulation and seeing if it's working. So it's a lot of iterations for that process to work. And that's exactly what I do. We do a lot of iterations, we do a lot of experiments, and then we analyze that data. We look at the pattern recognition is very key. We look at the patterns and think, what is this data telling you? And then what can you get from that data? So we do that a lot. So data analysis and pattern recognition and doing lots of research plays a key role to what I do today. The other thing that is important that I learned in my PhD was communication. Like, because in my PhD, I used to, you run your data, get your data, prepare some slides, you prepare slides of your data, what you've observed from that data, and the way you recognize those patterns would be based on what has been done, what is the current research, what is existing, what has been done, what are the papers saying, and then now looking at your data and saying, okay, this is how my data is looking about. So you draw conclusions from that data. So we'll do a lot of presentation both to my professor. I'll do that to my professor as well as my team. And in fact, during my PhD, I did work with the external industry, so that also really helped me a lot. So now in semiconductors, like whatever I do on day-to-day basis, I do a lot of it. Presentation, to be honest, it's a replicate of what I did in my PhD. There's a lot of meetings because you're discussing the data, then you're designing the experiment, and then you're setting up those experiments, you're collecting the data. So a lot of that still is what I apply today in my PhD. And finally, I think one of the things that PhD really teaches, and most this you can get from a lot of people, is resilience. You have to be resilient. You have to be persistent, because sometimes things will not work out. You will get into hurdles. You will get into, like, there is no funding. Like, funding is ending. There's a lot of anxiety, especially as an international student. So there's a lot of resilience, especially in research. Like trying to dig around a lot of papers to understand, like, to first know the background of your research, and then to understand how can you then use that information to do your own research, and to be innovative in your particular field. So you have to be resilient, because it's not an easy process. So I think that was one of the key things that even now in semiconductors, because things are not always working, and then you also have to work with a large team of engineers, you have to work with large team of technicians. So you're always working with people, and you have to be able to work with all these people and be able to innovate. And it's very fast paced, so you don't even have a lot of time to dilly dally around. So basically that's it. I think, yeah, whatever I did in my PhD definitely played a role, and that's something that, just to encourage you, like, you might not end up where you're doing your research in, but the skills that you get from them will play a big role in your whatever you end up doing post your PhD, whether that is in the industry or in academia. So and that is the end of my video today. If you liked what I share, please like, comment, and subscribe, and share to anyone who is in a similar path, to any PhD student right now who is also in the process of transitioning from their PhD to their career. So I think this will be just an encouragement to them. And see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.